Okay, hey guys, how you doing tonight?
Very good, Christopher. How are you?
I'm doing well. Okay,
All right.
so I have Ryan back with me again this week and John LaRuffa, and we're just going to start by letting John introduce himself and tell us what he's playing right now, what he's been up to with games.
Yeah, so thanks again, Christopher and Ryan, for having me on the show. I appreciate it. The facts about me is that I've been playing games for almost 20 years, European style games, etc. So lately, over the past maybe 7, 8, 9 years, I've done a lot more solo playing, but also still play the multiplayer scene with people when I get together. Obviously, with COVID going around, that really has not been possible, but many of my kids, I've got 4 kids. My wife, they like to play too. I've got 2 really good gamers. My 2 younger kids still really love to play. So when I'm not playing solo games, I'm usually playing with them. Um, but yeah, that's about the size of it.
Cool. I'm going to ask one question, then I'm going to let Ryan take over. I see behind you. I put Ryan on the spot last week, but I'm going to put you on the spot now. I see behind you Fallout. Um,
Yeah,
Usually, I think of you as having impeccable taste in games. That is a very controversial game right there.
yeah.
What do you think of that one?
So yeah, I got to give it a sigh there because obviously, I mean, I played it once with my daughter, where
Okay.
we played the co-op scenario in the expansion, and
Okay.
then I played it alone solo. And I got to say that as much as I love Fallout, that game is a little bit of a letdown. However, I am still hopeful that somehow they will resurrect it, which is why I haven't sold it. And there is a Fallout expansion coming out pretty soon. I think it's something in California. I can't remember the specific name, but I do like playing it. I do like the Fallout universe. I even bought the Fallout Shelter game
Yeah.
recently, and that's actually a lot of fun. There
Yeah. A
should
lot of
not be any
people.
controversy about that one.
No.
Um,
No. Yeah.
but
Is
I
the
just think it's fun
controversy
to. What's that? I'm sorry, Ryan.
is the controversy for Fallout just that it's kind of well,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess maybe not controversy. I think there was a lot of disappointment about that game
yeah.
because I think a lot of people are in the same boat as John, is that they love the video games and the universe and some of the other stuff that came out. And then that game came out and it was just kind of eh.
The problem, my opinion is it's about the end game that kind of breaks down. I mean, a lot of the game mechanics are actually a lot of fun. It's fun to explore. It's fun to gear up. It's fun to get chain quests and things like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But the way that you have to kind of finish the game and things that kind of count for victory and such, they can be a little off-putting. So I think they did a better job with changing some of the rules in that expansion that they released. But it's one that you play a little bit and you put on the shelf for a couple months. You break it back out, you put it back on the shelf. That's the way I look at it. I wouldn't play it, over and over again, back to back. I think it would lose its luster. I kind of like the novelty of playing that game every now and then.
Fair enough. Yeah.
expected.
Yeah. So, Ryan, I'm going to let you lead with the next question there.
Let me check my notes.
Yeah.
So, John, how did you get into board games?
So the beginnings for me happened in 2000, summer of 2000. So I was just getting out of my freshman year in college, and one of my buddies called me up and said, "Hey, my friend's got this game. It's called Settlers of Catan." And this is in 2000, right? So this is a long time. I mean, at that point, it wasn't in any stores. It was probably the first or second edition. So I went over there to try it in summer. It was the first time I played a game that hadn't been the usual stuff that everybody thinks of. And
Yeah.
I was blown away, right? It was like, let's play this right now, right again. So we played it a couple times in a row, and he also had Axis and Allies set up. And I'm like, I know Axis and Allies is fine, but you want to play one more time, settle? I mean, so I was really hooked with it. So I ended up buying it. And, then later on that year, when I started dating my wife, we brought that game. I taught her the game. I brought it to her family, her sisters, and we just started playing that all the time. It was like we get together, we play some Settlers. That's what we do. And at that time, Cities and Knights had just come out come out right around that time. So I picked that expansion up. Seafarers was there as well. So we used to have these big, sprawling tables full of Settlers. And then after a couple of years, it kind of lost its luster like anything. We had probably played it 100+ times. Yeah. I moved away, went to New Mexico. And when I was in the Air Force, I was telling some of my friends that were, down there about this Settlers game. Like, oh yeah, I played Settlers. Hey, it's a really interesting game that I've heard a lot about is Puerto Rico. So I bought Puerto Rico in 2005 for my wife for Christmas. And 2006 was like the year of Puerto Rico. Not only did I immediately fall in love with it, but I brought it to the people I was in the Air Force with. And we ended up taking that and one other game to Australia for like a long, it's called the TDY, but a long, testing mission for 2 weeks. And we did, in our spare time, we just ground out games of Puerto Rico over and over and over again. And then we got back, we were kind of looking at each other one day and like, hey, you guys feel like playing some Puerto Rico a little more often? So we ended up starting to play before work, at lunch, and after work, just playing. And so we had, a group of probably 20 people who knew the game, would play. We kept it was off the hook. And after that, I started getting into more games. I found Board Game Geek. So 2006 was like the year that it all kind of started to build. And, you think about those days, there was nowhere near the variety that there are now. They didn't release.
Yeah. I love that you just referred to playing Puerto Rico 3 or 4 times a day as off the hook.
Yeah.
Sorry,
it was.
Keep going.
I mean, I'm jealous.
I mean, honestly, we would get up in the morning. I'd get up at 6 o'clock, go into work. We'd set it up. We'd play before a game, and these are like, when we got good at it, you could play a 5-man game in 35 to 45 minutes. We'd set the thing up, play it, take it down, 45 minutes, work, have a game at lunch, and then come over to my house for a few beers after work and play it again. And we'd do that 4 or 5 times in a week. It was insane how much we played. So, it's one of those things where you really find something that everybody likes. And that game, too, has some serious legs. In fact, even with COVID, I started teaching that to people remotely, friends that had played it way back in the day, but they were out-of-towners. And now we've got a regular Wednesday Puerto Rico game on Board Game Arena because it's so good. Even 15 years later, I still play that. I still have that game of many that I have down here. I've sold a lot of games over my time, but that one stays in the collection for sure.
Is it the same copy?
Same copy.
Oh.
We have we have the first expansion in there, the one with the buildings. So you have, the ability to do the draft or the random buildings. I don't have the one with the nobles and such. That came out much later, and I'd kind of missed that and lost the Puerto Rico bug for a while. But yeah, that copy has some mileage on it. The box was like split in my luggage when I came back from Australia, so it was, it immediately had some serious love put into it.
Yeah.
So.
Is your reason for not upgrading? Is it nostalgic and just all the love that's in that game?
Yeah, I mean, here's one of the things. You would not know it by the games behind me, but I'm usually pretty stingy with spending money on things that I already have. So I would not upgrade the components, just upgrade them. Also, for a long time when the upgrades came out and the new version and everything else, I wasn't playing it, right? It was a fond memory, but we'd only play it once or twice a year, maybe with family members who had picked it up during the time or whatever. But, it was never coming to game nights. And it's because I kind of played it enough. Besides Android Netrunner, I've probably played Puerto Rico more than any other game, period. And it's got to be 250 plus games at least. Shoot, this year I've probably put in almost 50 games just because of the COVID pandemic.
Wow. Yeah.
So
I realized that's the first game that we played together. And now that you mentioned Android Netrunner, is we played Destiny together. out of the box.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I used to play when we did our weekly nights, and then you showed up to one randomly, and you were so frustrated. I think you were expecting it to go like Netrunner, but I'll let Ryan follow up if he has a question there, because we mentioned last week that's one of the things that Ryan used to do competitively is play Netrunner.
Yeah,
fantastic.
That was a long time ago, but yeah, I loved Netrunners so much.
Yes,
it's the bluffing. Who was your big identity that you ran?
Oh, the problem I had was I was always changing it up. So I'd play a deck, I'd play it once or twice, and I actually played a lot. For pity's sake, was the Octagon. Remember that? I don't know.
Online?
That was the online.
Yeah.
Even though I bought all the cards and had them, I played 80% of my games on the Octagon. So I would build the deck physically and then have it here and then upload it, use the deck builders and such. But honestly, I would say that for my favorite, I think, were the from a runner standpoint, were probably the Anarch. Those were the red ones, right? It's been so long. And then from a corporation standpoint, probably Jinteki. I never could get some. I take that back. I had a love-hate relationship with Wayland because I love to build Wayland decks, and I think they were just far too predictable, and they never worked out. So Jinteki was better. It was a little bit trickier, and I could never get an NBN deck to work for me ever. I tried, I failed. I tried, I failed. So, and then the Haas Bayreuth was just it was fine, but it was all a little bit too straightforward. But I played all the way until they decided to retire some of the first cycle, and then I was like, that's it. Mm-hmm. And then they lost their license shortly after that. So I still have all the content that was part of the original release. I don't know what I'm holding on to it for. I haven't played it in years, but
I've heard
I'd love to play it again.
Still play. I have a buddy that bought a set that I used to play with pretty aggressively, and he's trying to get back into it. I stopped playing after the second big box, but I ran Noise and Jinteki. So and I ran, those are my two favorites, except for and NBN. Side story, I ran NBN once with a tag punishment deck, but it didn't have any tag punishment. So people would just get stressed and get rid of the tags, and I got like top 8 in national with that.
Wow,
regional,
nice.
Because nobody knew.
That's great. That's funny. Because exactly. They're waiting for the shoe to drop, and it never does. They're just blowing their turns, and
nope, haven't drawn it yet, and that's why Netrunner's great.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. All the bluffing was. I was so sad that they never made an app of all the things they put together, and I know why they don't. But it's too bad, because if there was an app out there that I could play, or even like one that you could play online that's just better than some of these online portals, I'd still probably be playing it. I love that game.
It's a beautiful game.
Yeah.
Would you teach your kids Netrunner?
I've tried a couple of times, and the bluffing aspect is such. Now, my kids learn just about anything, right? They've learned Feast for Odin. They've learned smartphone. They've learned, half the things that Netrunner, it was just too much for them to be like, wait a minute. Okay, I got all this stuff. I'm trying to do it, but it's got such a high learning curve, even when I'm trying to like walk them through it, because so much of the information is hidden, no matter which role they played. And then they'd be like, oh man, I wish I was playing the runner. And they play the runner and then just get, iced out and be like, wait a minute. So it never clicked. And it was so sad. I had this vision that someday me and my, children would be playing that as a regular thing in building decks. And they like deck builders, but not that one. So I'll give them a couple more years and then try it again.
Yeah.
See what happens.
For those watching or listening that have never played Netrunner, will you guys give like just a brief overview of it? Because we just did a lot of nerd talk that. That somebody isn't playing, because it's not a current game, and like you say, there's no app for it or anything. So.
It's a living card game put out by Fantasy Flight Game, based off of the original Richard Garfield game. That had rectangular cards back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's asymmetrical. Yeah. John, pick it up. You got it.
Very, very asymmetrical. One side plays the runner, and the runner's job is to try to get into the corporation through hacking and through busting through these firewalls called ICE. And then they would try to expose the agendas of the evil corporation, right? And if you could expose enough of them, then they would win. The corporation would try to defeat their attempts and either kill them outright through damage, like net damage or brain damage, just two different ways to put damage on them, or advance their agendas enough to, have enough corruption to basically, I don't know how, thematically get what they wanted, and the runner wouldn't stop them. The best part of the whole game is the bluffing aspect, because as the corporation, you have a lot of face down cards, a lot of hidden information, and the runner has to take lots of risks to try to see if they're going to get through. And so it's quite thematic in that way. But the only thing that's tough about it is it's got a heck of a learning curve. And because the cards, there's so many, it's really tough to get into. Mm-hmm. Just really tough. So it's still good. Very good. Yeah. And unfortunately not a solo game.
Yeah. All the points to be scored are in the corporation's deck. So right. The corporation has like all the power, it feels like, but they also have all of the weaknesses.
All the vulnerability. Yep.
Yeah.
So really, really just amazing asymmetrical game design. A lot of fun to play.
Yes.
I miss it.
Yes, indeed.
So what are you playing right now, John?
So the thing is, I usually play kind of a variety of stuff. It always cycles, right? So right now, recently, I've been playing a lot of Tekhenu, the Obelisk of the Sun, which is a brand new one. That is a great game. It's great solo. I've only played it solo. The bot that you use, I can't remember what it is, the Tekhenu bot, he is very easy to run. And so that's a really fun game. Spent time doing that. Played a lot of Smartphone Inc. with my kids, and actually got my wife and my oldest son to play. I kind of tricked him into it a little bit, saying, hey, it's about smartphones, build a smartphone empire. And of course, he's Mr. Electronics. He's like, okay, fine, I'll try it out. And he actually won the game, enjoyed it. It's like, I don't want to play anymore. Yeah, I'm just fine. So it's just whatever. That's what happens. And then also online, Russian Railroads, I started playing that again, just a blast from the past.
You have a copy of it?
I do. I have a copy over here. And on the so in the physical version, I have the German railroads and the American railroads. Unfortunately, online in Board Game Arena, it's just the regular. But it's been a lot of fun just to get that back out and churn through some games.
Yeah. How long have you had your copy?
Since the beginning. I actually bought. I got lucky. That was one of the years that for my company, I was traveling in Germany at the same time Essen was happening. So I went to Essen in 2013, just happenstance, right? And bought a copy right there that day. That was on my list. I'm like, I got to get that. I got to get Caverna. There's a couple other ones, but those were, out rushing right in there to try to get my copy of those. And so that was really a lot of, and it's a great game. One of my favorites.
Oh yeah. No, a lot of people love that game. That's another one that has become a holy grail for some people.
It's tough to find now, right? Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. I think it's going for like $250 now, which is kind of ridiculous. But
yeah, it's not that good.
No, it's not.
I mean, it's good, but it's not that good.
No.
So yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so your kids played. Did all your kids play Smartphone Inc? Because that's a fairly heavy game.
Well, so my two younger ones, my 9-year-old and my 12-year-old, just turned 12. They were playing, and they're when you have a dad like me, you get into games early, right? So even though the games can be a little bit heavier, they'll still learn it and stick with it and do really well. So the first game we played, my oldest and my two youngest played, and then the second game, my wife and my youngest, and then my youngest daughter played. So yeah, the thing about that game is that it's like Power Grid in a way where you're doing the same steps in the turn,
right? Yeah,
over and over. And so it's like, okay, I see what I want to do. I see how that round didn't go the way I wanted. This is what I'm gonna do next time. I'm going to cut my price. I'm going to expand here. So they've been quite competitive. My daughter won against my wife and I, put up, I think it was like 279. So that was quite a good score for, I don't know what is a maximum score, but that beat me by about 40 points. So she had a smirk on her face when she knew what she had in the bag. It was ridiculous. I'm like, I think you're going to win. She's like, I know I'm going to win. This is my time. I've been beaten twice before, and this is it. So they have enjoyed it. We combined the expansion in there last time to flavor it up a little bit, and that wasn't really too much extra complexity, but we enjoyed it. So it's a good one. Definitely recommend. The solo was easy to do too, very easy. Not easy to win. Steve Bot is he's very overpowered, and so but that's okay because he's predictable. So you know what he's going to do, but he's also very effective in doing it. Makes for a good solo experience.
Man, I'm just going to imagine it's kind of terrible now that like there's this digital version of Steve Jobs now. And, yeah, and he's a ghost, but somehow he programmed his consciousness and his name is Steve Bot.
Well, have you seen the little player figure? It's this little black figure with these hollowed out eyes, so it has this weird look to it. Quite, you know.
Can you tell us
it's uncanny.
People with a turtleneck?
No, I think it's just a black piece, like plastic, but no turtleneck. Just you can tell that it was, it's modeled after the powerhouse that is Apple.
Yeah.
From that standpoint.
Were you going to ask something, Ryan?
Nope. I'm just listening and enjoying.
Okay, so I think that's a good segue to. What is the difference between a solo game and a puzzle? How do you demarcate that? Is there really a difference between it being a puzzle and just doing a Sudoku and being a game? How would you define that?
Well, I think that they blend together in some ways. So if you have co-op games, a lot of times co-op games can be played solo, and those are essentially puzzles to be solved with some sort of timer, right? Yeah. Timer of cards, timer of bad things happening, whatever, but it's basically a race against the clock style puzzle. And so you get a lot of that, but then you get games where it's not very puzzly. They've done a good job, like for instance, Tekhenu, like I mentioned, that does not have a puzzle aspect because you're playing against an automa or an automaton or an automa, however you want to look at it, AI, that takes turns, that simulates another player, takes some of the complexity out. And so that, to me, that's just like playing a game with an artificial opponent. Yeah. And so I like those too. I like both sides. Sometimes I want to solve puzzles. And so, the best of the solved puzzles is probably the Search for Planet X. I was just playing that tonight, actually, before this. Great game solo. Has a great app. It's 100% puzzle, right? The whole thing is a deductive kind of thing, and I love it. I really think it's really, really fun. But sometimes I don't feel like solving a puzzle. Sometimes I feel like building an engine. So I want to do something like Fields of Arle, or Arle, however you pronounce it. And that, that's all about trying to build that engine. You're not even playing against another opponent. You're just leaving things out to block. And if there's any puzzling going on, it's just you making sure you don't trip over yourself while you're trying to be as efficient as possible.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of different variety there. And I think it'll depend on what people like. If people don't like puzzly games, they're going to want to stay away from some kinds of the genre. And then people who like to sit down and just, have that puzzly nature. I like both. So I'm lucky in that fact. There's nothing that puts me out from there. And then there's really big thematic games that are like, the cooperative side usually is like that, but all of your Eldritch horrors, your Arkham horrors, your Elder Signs, your Arkham living card games, all those things, those are all highly soloable, and
whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they really feel puzzly. That's more like kind of an ongoing adventure style story, immersive experience, which I find actually plays quite well. It's like an interactive experience where, you're still working against the clock and everything else, but it doesn't seem puzzly. It seems more like an open book adventure, which I think is a lot of fun.
Do you think that's the narrative nature of those?
Yeah. I think that the narrative helps for sure. So Eldritch Horror, really, and in Arkham Horror, the third edition, I haven't played the second. I kind of got into gaming after the second had been released and was sort of out of print. And I jumped in with Elder Signs and Eldritch Horror. But I think just that whole story, the universe behind it and the little snippets there kind of just help you get a feel of like, I'm doing something, you know, cool and interesting in this world.
Yeah.
They're all like nonsensical links to things like, you know, you go into a tavern and you find this guy who is drooling inconsolably over in the corner. You ask him to figure out what's happening, and then you roll a dice. You know, I mean, so it doesn't necessarily link together. It's more loose, but I still think it's really fun to do that. And I like playing. I mean, I love taking time, and for people who like that adventure side of things, I think that those games, if you can maybe try it out, you really find that they work real well by yourself.
Right.
For sure.
I have a hard time with Arkham Horror.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Just because of the theme or because of the mechanics?
The mechanics. I got that long time ago, and I was. It didn't feel. I didn't feel like it has a lot of agency. Yes, I can do 10 different things. 9 of those things are going to cause me to lose the game. I have to do one of them.
Oh yeah, you got to be glutton for punishment if you're going to play those. I mean,
yeah, I thought the newer one, Elder Sign, is a really good streamline of that experience without feeling as forced and without taking so extraordinarily long to feel pushed.
Yeah,
and I'm a big Lovecraft fan, so
okay, yeah. The third edition is not nearly as long as I've heard that the second or the first editions were. They're a little bit more streamlined, and but you're still going to get pounded. Yeah. And that's all there is to it. You got to be used to that.
Yeah, it feels like it never felt like there was a lot of agency. It always feels like this is absolutely clearly the best course of action. You know, and like you're being punished the whole time, but also I just feel like I'm being punished because it's just so distinct what I have to do to be able to win. You know?
Yeah. I definitely know. You're right in the fact it gives you the illusion of choice for sure. Yeah. But for the most part, you narrow your stuff down pretty quick about, okay, this is what I'm gonna have to do, and here's how I'm gonna focus if I'm not gonna get it done. And you know, the other similar games like that, like Mansions of Madness second edition, they have the app and everything else, very much a similar experience where in those games you really have to be focused on not getting distracted by every little thing and looking, because the clock is ticking and it's going to run out, and then they're going to change from a small knife to a big hammer to a forklift dropping on your head over and over again if you don't hurry up. So, yeah, I can see it for some people, not for others, for sure.
Yeah.
Related to those mechanics, why don't you ask your other question, Ryan?
The distinction of solo games?
Well, the how the game is designed. Why don't you ask about that?
Do you feel that there's like a distinction for when they not necessarily shoehorn but work in rules for solo games for multiplayer games that are adding AIs?
Yeah, so here's my thought. Some of them, I sometimes really like a game and I really like playing a solo, but it ends up being a lot of work to get that experience. Classic example of that is probably Trickerion, right? I mean, I like the theme. I like the game. I actually recorded a video for my YouTube channel just so that I could remember how to play it later and watch the video, because I'm like, I can't relearn this game. This is going to be, I'm going to play it 3 or 4 times and record how to do this so that I never have to read these 6 rule books again, because there's so many little steps. And sometimes I can put up with that and sometimes I can't. So I prefer games, honestly, that are a little bit more multiplayer solitaire when it comes to a solo aspect, unless the bot is done very elegantly. And I'll give some of those, nods out to the automas that have been done for games like Scythe and Tapestry and Viticulture, thinking of some other ones. Teotihuacan, Tekhenu, those are all done pretty well. And then there's ones, like I said, which are also very competitive, very good, but doing them just requires a lot of additional steps. Like, for instance, a Black Angel. Black Angel is a really fun game. I like it a lot. I did a video on that for my channel just so that I wouldn't have to remember or read the rules again. And actually, before I play that again, I have to watch the video because there's no way I could just sit down and just have the AI do its thing, right? So that's one of those things that I actually prefer a game like, my favorite way to play a solo game is something like a Feast for Odin, because really there you're kind of self-blocking. The rules for that solo experience are almost non-existent. They're a little paragraph at the end. Here's the changes set up. Here's what you do. Same thing with like Caverna. So a lot of Uwe Rosenberg's games are like that, where you just leave pieces from round to round and they self-block and provide a really cool experience. But I will say this. My favorite of all solo games are the ones that you can play a campaign on, so that each game there's a discovery, there's something else happening. Maracaibo is like that. That has a little bit more of an involved, you got to learn a little bit about this and that from a solo standpoint. Not too bad. The deck is pretty easy to do, but the fact that you have a campaign going from step to step or from play to play adds some variety, which is a lot of fun. And I'd be remiss to not mention Cooper Island, which is one of the heaviest games I've played in recent years from a solo or regular standpoint. Very well done from a solo standpoint. Easy to execute, feels great playing it, and has really provided a really good meaty experience. A lot of crunchy decisions there. Yeah. So
I'll check that out.
Well, Ryan, I don't know if you know or not, but since you've been out in touch with some of the newer stuff, but those are both Capstone Games, Maracaibo and Cooper Island, right there in Cincinnati. He's been knocking it out of the park with stuff lately.
Oh, wow.
It's really cool what Capstone's been up to. The one kind of crazy thing was he republished Bust, which was a Splotter originally, and made the components slightly nicer, but because they had to pay Splotter for the license and Splotter didn't want to give him a deal on it, it's still a $90 game, and it shouldn't be. but anyway, no. Cooper Island and Maracaibo are great. Maracaibo was by Alexander Pfister. Spiel a few years ago for Isle of Skye, and then since then he's just been doing amazing stuff since then. He did Great Western Trail. Have you played that one, Ryan? Great Western Trail?
Yep.
No, okay. We'll have to play that one sometime.
I played Isle of Skye though with you.
Yeah. It's one of the few auction games I like. So, with all that, John, do you think that there are any fun solo games? Do you have recommendations for people that are just getting into this that might want to play a shorter solo game?
Sure. It depends on what you like. The easiest way to dip your toe into a solo game, if you just want to do a quick solo puzzle, is go find a roll and write that you enjoy that has a 1 to 4 player or 1 to 5 player. Like, there you go. Like Cartographers. There's even an app on that one now. So that's a great one. And another one that's really good is Welcome To. That plays pretty well. The newer solo is a little better. It requires a little more thinking as far as like executing it. And Railroad Inc. Also real easy to solo, very fun. So those are some simple puzzles. But then what I would do is I'd find a co-op that you're interested in, like Pandemic or anything like that, and try that out solo. Very easy to play those with 2, 3, or 4 characters. The experience is great. It's like a puzzle. And so that's what I would start with there. Now, if you want my all-time best recommendations for solo, if you really, really like, games that have a lot to learn and explore, A Feast for Odin with the Norwegian expansion, top notch. That to me is still my favorite of solo game. I could play it over and over with different things, trying different tactics. There's just so much to do in that. That's a great sandbox game. I'd also say that Fields of Arle and Caverna, again, there's a Rosenberg theme here too. I like Caverna a little more than Agricola, only because I played Agricola out, and I think that it's more fun to have all of the buildings at your fingertips so that you're not necessarily hemmed in on the card draw you get. But those are also great. And then there's a whole bunch of deck builders that you could play too. If you really like to punish yourself, you can go ahead and get Dragonfire.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
I mean, that's you might as well just be prepared to lose a couple 10, 15 games in a row. But when you win, wow, that does feel good. But I think there's a lot of things that you can start with. And then what I would say is just take it easy, right? Try things on different ends of the spectrum instead of getting a whole bunch of the same type of game, because the vast majority of the titles behind me have solo modes, solo variants, or solo right out of the box. There's just so many these days. In the last 4 years, it has just gone through the roof.
Yeah.
From the time, like when Pandemic came out in 2007, there was only a handful of games that could be played solo. And now I don't even look at a game almost unless it's got a solo component, and most every single one of them does. And I think it's really smart, and it's so much fun for guys like me and for the people in the world who likes to play games and can't play with anybody right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you shared one of your favorite games. I'm going to ask Ryan before we close up for tonight what his new favorite game is, because it looks like he has one in the background there.
Oh, Stellar Leap by Carl from Weird Giraffe Games. This is a game that I kickstarted, and I just it's a little easy entry 4X game, jumping around planets, mining resources, scoring DPs.
It is an easy 4X?
Yeah.
Okay,
and it plays like 45 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
But also,
nice.
I have started playing it's 1 to 4 and 20 minutes per player. Stellar Leap.
Awesome.
Nice. But I have actually been playing Space Vermin from Beyond by Fred Manzo, and it's a chit game.
Oh.
So that's...
Do you have box art for that so we can see that?
It came in a plastic bag.
Okay.
Yes.
And I actually really like chit games. I like to get my readers on and my tweezers. I'm not currently using tweezers for this one, but in preparation for our conversation tonight, I bought this game 2 or 3 years ago, and I finally busted it out, and I have it sitting up on the table next to me, and I am still finishing the first game. I've been playing for 3 days. I love it. I love it. It's great.
Okay, awesome.
I don't know if I'm winning. Have you played any chit solos, John?
You know, the only thing I've done, which is close, is some of the what are they called? State of Siege games. Like what is that? Dawn of the Zeds.
Okay.
That was one I played. Infection, sort of like State of Siege. Is that State of Siege? No, that's not. That's a little bit different. That is about the closest I've come. And then I would give, I don't know if it's chit games, but it's pretty close. Some of the GMT stuff, like the coin games. Now, if you want, I love coin games. I love coin games. I wish I could play those with more people, because honestly, that's a solo game and you could do it, but you want to talk about having to learn 4 different ways to play the game. And you spend more time, it regrettably ends up being a bit too much work versus being able to do what you want. Your turn's the easiest. It's like, oh, no problem. That's what I want to do. Then I got to figure out, okay, flow chart, this, that guy, the card. It got a little better with Gandhi with the Anjuna deck. But I do appreciate those kind of games too. Labyrinth, that's another one that I really like.
That's a fantastic game.
Yeah.
Every time I ask my friends if they want to play a coin game, they ask me what it is. I explain it, and they tell me no.
That's why I'm moving back.
You can't. I've still never played it with anybody.
What?
Period. One time I had half a game with some folks, and that was it.
What game?
That was Fire in the Lake.
All right, that's the one I really want to play.
So we're just gonna have to drive back up after COVID's over, and Ryan and I will play with you sometime.
Yeah. All right. I don't have my Fire in the Lake anymore. I actually sold it because I replaced it with Gandhi.
Okay.
And I think Gandhi's really good. Really good.
Okay. I've heard Cuba Libre is the good intro one, which I really wanted to try.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to play that, but then I played I'm not going to be able to remember the name, and it's embarrassing. So never mind. But it was 13-hour long game. In the Name of the Queen, I think.
Wow.
Okay.
That's a long time.
It was good. It was good. I really love what GMT pushes out. So.
Yeah, I do too. I appreciate this stuff. And Spacecorp. I mean, great for me. I like Spacecorp. Love playing that solo too. That's a different type of GMT.
I've never tried that one solo. Okay.
I have Talon. I picked up Talon instead of Spacecorp.
Now, I never played Talon. I'd like to try it someday and see if I'd like it.
I like it because I am exceptionally bad at it.
There you go. Built-in challenge.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, John. We really appreciate it. You want to give a shout out to your channel?
Yeah, I mean, I publish a lot of things on YouTube, but just under John LaRuffa. You just search for it. And mostly it's focused on solo games, playthroughs, unboxings, those types of things. I also put some of my music up there. I write electronic EDM music, so got a little bit of that. But I love teaching people how to play solo games and giving people kind of a window in to say, hey, is this something that you'd like to do? So I've got, episodes like Straight Up Solo that just talk right about, like, is this game good as a solo game? And then I've got some rules, speed throughs, and things to try to get people back to the table. So feel free to check it out.
Yeah, I think that I was looking through. I think that some of your rules speed through. A lot of people are using those and liking those.
I stopped doing them in fast motion because people couldn't keep up. But I'm now the new ones are just regular speed. But I would encourage anybody to just speed right on through because it's all about refreshing you so you can get back to the table as fast as possible.
Yep,
that is an awesome service. I am a firm believer telling people to learn a game. Find a YouTube video, open the rule book, watch the YouTube video, reference the rule book.
Yeah.
And thank you for doing that.
It's been my pleasure. It's a labor of love.
Yeah.
A labor of love.
Well, awesome. Thanks again. And
thank you guys.
Yep. We'll talk to you both later.
All right. Take it easy.